Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, November 10th, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Today, we're celebrating 3 different feasts of Our Lady, 3 different events. First, in Viana do Castelo, Portugal, they celebrate Our Lady of Last Agony. When a sudden storm would swell on the seas and threaten to bash the fishermen's boats against the cliffs, their wives and families would invoke Our Lady's protection. And hence, Our Lady of Last Agony has become sort of the last resort, that praying for protection for the fishermen. Likewise, in 1552, we have a miraculous cure through the intercession of Our Lady of Loreto. A Turkish officer was convinced by one of his Christian slaves to beg the intercession of Our Lady of Loreto, asking for a miraculous cure for his incurable illness. Well, the cure was granted, and the officer gave the shrine many different gifts, and also, as a gesture of gratitude, freed his Christian slave. Lastly, in 1642 or 43, you find both dates, we have Our Lady of the Eye, which, in my butchered German, is Muttergottes von der Augenwende in Rottweil, Baden-Württemberg, Germany. On this day, as the French laid siege to the city, the statue of Our Lady with the Child in this church grew pale. She turned her eyes to heaven and then towards the city, an act of mercy and compassion to let them know that she had not abandoned them, even in the midst of these difficult situations. So let's start with a little selection from the book The Admirable Heart of Mary by St. John Eudes. This first part is entitled Object of the Devotion to the Admirable Heart of Mary. And the first chapter is entitled Reasons for the Name Admirable. Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God, chose the incomparable Virgin Mary from among all creatures to be his mother, and deigned to be nourished and governed by her. In his infinite goodness, he also gave her to us to be our queen, our mother, and our sure refuge in all our needs. He therefore wishes us to honor her as he honors her, and to love her as he loves her. According to the Apostle St. Paul, Christ is the head of his mystical body, the Church, and we are the members. We must therefore be animated by his Spirit. We must follow his inspirations, walk the path he has traced, and continue, as it were, his life on earth by practicing the virtues which were his own. It follows that our devotion to his Holy Mother must be a continuation of his devotion to her. We must be filled with the sentiments of respect, submission, and affection, which he entertained for her on earth and still entertains in heaven. Mary always held and will hold forever the first place in the Sacred Heart of her Divine Son. She always was and will never cease to be the first object of his love after the Eternal Father. And so he wishes that, next to God, she should be the principal object of our devotion. For this reason, after the veneration we owe to the Divine Majesty of God, we cannot render a greater service to Jesus Christ or do anything more pleasing to him than to serve and honor his most worthy mother. The human will is not, however, moved to love a fellow creature unless the intellect first knows what renders it worthy of respect and esteem. The infinite zeal with which the Son of God is inflamed for all that concerns his dear mother has urged him to reveal to us, through the inspired words of sacred Scripture and through the writings of the Fathers, some small measure of the perfections with which he has enriched her. The reality far surpassing our knowledge of her in this veil of darkness will be revealed only in heaven, the land of unclouded light. So for today's Marian meditation, taken from the book by Father Ildefonso Villar, we continue with his meditations on the evidence for the Immaculate Conception. And today we consider the words of the Church. For 19 centuries, the Church was longing for this dogma. Watch the magnificent parade. There are holy fathers, the doctors, the ecclesiastical writers, the mystics, the ascetics, all the saints, and especially those who most loved Mary, who have woven an endless crown of praises to her Immaculate Conception. There are the virgins of the Holy Church, who in order to follow her immaculate purity, gave themselves up to her through the vow of virginity. Behold how many they are and how resplendent. What a fine army under the banner of Mary Immaculate. The whole Christian people acclaimed in her in hymn and song, pure and spotless in her conception. There has been no dogma more strongly and more deeply felt, nor one better understood than this. After 19 centuries of waiting, Pope Pius IX, gathering all that lasting longing and praise, shapes with it, as her everlasting crown, the dogmatic definition of the Immaculate Conception of Mary. Pause and see Mary as the shining goal of the praises of the whole Church in this mystery. See how those words of the Magnificat are fulfilled. All generations shall call me blessed.
Hello, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to our Marian podcast. In the spirit of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, we say to you that there is no greater delight than to spread the devotion of Our Lady. We hope you share these sentiments and encourage you greatly to share with a loved one. Know that you are always in our prayers, and we ask that you keep us in yours. God bless.